finally laid to rest. Today, thousands of people gathering in central Israel for the funerals of Shiri Bibas and her two young children, Ariel and Kafir. Mourners lining the route with Israeli flags and tributes. The trio were kidnapped from their home during the October 7th attack, along with their husband and father, Yarden Bibas. Yarden was freed earlier this month as part of a ceasefire deal. He now faces the heartbreak of life without his entire family. Shiri and her two boys, the youngest hostages in Gaza, were killed, and their bodies finally returned last week. This emotional moment comes as the first phase of the ceasefire is set to expire tonight in exchange for several prisoners. Hamas is releasing their bodies and the deceased hostages, including Shlomo Mansour, a Holocaust survivor and the oldest hostage in captivity. Let's bring in our national security and defense analyst, Mick Mulroy, now. So, Mick, the ceasefire is expected to end tonight. So what happens once it expires?
Technically, Carol, since they haven't agreed to enter into the second phase, that means the cessation of hostilities could be over and fighting could resume. And we've seen steps taken by the IDF, both mobilizing units and calling up reservists that indicate that might actually happen. It doesn't mean it will. There is some talk about extending the first phase if Hamas would agree. And that would, of course, keep the ceasefire in place. But there's also a possibility that the conflict could resume and fighting start again.
So will we get to the second stage of this ceasefire, or are we hours away from fighting resuming?
So they haven't advanced the negotiations on the second phase of this ceasefire agreement. Ultimately, if they do get there, that means the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have to withdraw from Gaza. And the biggest sticking point is what replaces them, because obviously the Israelis aren't going to accept Hamas replacing the IDF as a security for Gaza. So there's a lot of discussion on multinational forces that haven't seemed to go anywhere. But that is a big, big decision by Israel. If Prime Minister Netanyahu would agree to that, he would certainly have challenges to his leadership from the far right and potentially even the center right. So this is a big issue and obviously something that needs to be addressed, because in order to go into the second phase, Israel would have to be willing to do this.
Well, Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, says that a summit will soon be held with real estate developers and planners from the region to discuss the administration's plan for Gaza. I mean, is this just wishful thinking? Is there any way that Arab countries would actually agree to this?
So they've been very clear. The two major Arab countries that have been referenced are Jordan and Egypt, and both have said unequivocally that they will not take 2 million Palestinians that would obviously be forced to relocate from Gaza. That would, of course, destabilize their own country. It would cost an incredible amount of money, and they would need to build things, and they just politically have no interest in doing that at all. It would meet with significant pushback from their own populations on doing this. So until that's resolved, I don't see why you would want to have discussions on reconstruction. Perhaps there's some other thing I don't see, but that is the big sticking point, and it hasn't moved at all since President Trump first announced his plan, his idea for how Gaza could be reconstructed and Palestinians removed from Gaza.
Mick Mulroy, we're going to track it. Thank you.